which is why I say if you just commit to 3 things, it's way more sustainable.
Yeah.
And sustainability is, as you know, whether you're doing, a health kick, it's the ability to sustain it over a longer period that makes things work. Welcome to the Mindful Paths podcast with Nick Day and Hari Kalymnios, where we explore the fascinating world of mindset, mindfulness, fitness, well-being, vitality, leadership, and of course, personal development.
Our goal is to provide you with insights to help you live a more fulfilling, happier, and healthier life.
So if you're striving to be a better parent, friend, leader, colleague, or boss, or if you simply want to be more mindful and aware of the world around you, then this Mindful Paths podcast is going to be for you.
We invite you to eavesdrop on our conversations, and we challenge you to discover a new insight to help you on your own journey towards personal growth and positive change.
So sit back,
relax, and let's begin our journey together
on the Mindful Paths podcast. Hello, mate. How you doing? Back from the States? How's tricks? How was your holiday?
I did. I got back Saturday morning, so it was a night flight from Austin, which was actually quite comfortable. I upgraded myself to premium rather than economy. So I had a bit of extra leg room. Ended up spending the first couple of hours chatting to this guy who is like an MD actually of the European arm of his company. So that ended up chatting to him till what was 3:00 in the morning UK time. Got a couple of hours sleep and then suffered on Saturday night because I couldn't get to bed till about 3 a.m. and then woke up 2:00 Sunday afternoon thinking, how am I going to get up at 6:00 today? I managed it. With the help of...
You did say in the last episode it was going to be a bit of a struggle.
I mean, to be honest, I got up okay, but I was restless through the night, and I took a couple of melatonin, which I wouldn't normally take, but for jet lag it can be quite useful. So I took a couple of those and I had a magnesium bath. So I was in bed by 11, on and off up until sort of I got up at 6, and then I got to the school and they had no idea we were coming, and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this gets cancelled and I'm home by 9:30. There's no way I'm going to last till 9:00 tonight without having like a siesta or a nap. Luckily, they sorted it out and had quite a challenging day. So I'm feeling a bit lazy right now. And just
what you're saying is we're privileged to have you today because you are shattered.
What I'm saying is that I might fall asleep halfway through this conversation.
That's fine. I'll tell you what, to keep myself awake, I'm going to change my desk up. I've been sat down all day. I need to stand up. It's a standing desk. So I'll let you tell us about your trip and your learnings or anything that we can have a little chit chat about while I just stand this desk up. Give me 2.
Yeah. No worries. So when we last spoke, I'd just been a couple of days in Austin, Texas, and I spent the rest of the week there effectively, except for a couple of days where I went to Houston. My mate had a conference, actually. It was Digital Health Conference. I didn't go to the conference itself, although I went to a little bit of a mixer in the evening, although only for like half an hour. And there was people there from like Headspace, Calm, a few other places. And yeah, it was quite interesting. I've lost your video, by the way, just so you know.
I've obviously pulled it out. That's right. I've obviously pulled it out of the USB. I can hear you, though. I can see you.
Yeah,
so
okay, perfect. So that was quite interesting. But what got me thinking is really funny. My friends, I believe, had a really good time having me over, actually. There was like 2 boys and my mate and his wife. And they were like, towards the end, they're like, oh, can you not just stay and be like our life coach or something? And what it struck me is that what I find is the biggest benefit when it comes to helping other people a lot of the time is really being immersed in their life, because there's only so much you can do with like an hour or a book or a video, but it's those little things that they spot you doing or that you tend to do that rub off onto them. And so I was teaching them a training technique that they could use. It's quite funny, actually. We all 4 of us, or 5 of us, sorry, the kids as well, and me, we did a Wim Hof breath session one day, which was quite cool. And then I also did an exercise session for the adults to train them to be able to do 15 minutes twice a week and get...
And how did the Wim Hof go down with the kids? Do they know who he is?
Do they know who it is? I'm not sure they did. I think my mate had heard of him. They did it. They both did it. One was 6 and one was 9. And they did it. It was really cute, actually, because the 9-year-old was kind of telling the 6-year-old, because he was listening to the instructions, saying you don't have to hold it for that full minute, because the 6-year-old was really struggling to hold hold the breath. But I was teaching them all about belly breathing, and I said this time you can breathe through your mouth in this one, but normally I would say don't breathe through your mouth. And so that was quite good. And then when we were doing the exercise, the little kids got involved as well, and they were like trying to lift the weights, and I was teaching them how to lift it properly. So it was quite nice. But I guess I thought, I mean, what we could talk
Still
about,
trying to improve my my Bolt score.
yeah, I don't really test that. But for those
not familiar, that's the ability to hold your breath before the first impulse to breathe. So not how long you can hold your breath, just the first sort of mental stimulus or anything that could trigger that tells you need to breathe. I'm trying to improve that. Part of the oxygen advantage, and I'm doing nasal breathing while I'm running at the minute, which is getting better.
Well, actually, I was out for my mates. Actually, you met Nuan, so I was out for Nuan's birthday on Saturday, and he was telling me how I told him a few weeks ago about this nasal breathing. He's got like not a watt bike, but he's got a similar bike at home that he trains on. And then in the beginning, he was like, no way that will work. And now he says he's doing nasal breathing the whole time he's training on that bike. He's getting his heart rate up, but he doesn't feel so exhausted at the end of his training session. So it's pretty good, actually. I like it when people listen to sometimes what I say and take action on it. It's always quite nice.
I'd like to give you the benefit. Sadly, it's the guy who wrote the Oxygen Advantage that I'm following. But
yeah. I didn't influence you. You're well into it anyway yourself. But actually, I guess what I thought, like, because I've been on holiday, my routines have been out of whack a little bit and struggling to get back. And I thought it might be interesting to talk something about routines. And the reason I say that is because I've been away, my routines have been out of whack, but also I didn't really think about routines 10 years ago, 12 years ago, in terms of having a morning routine, having an evening routine. And one of those things that I was talking about with the beat model, and I've said before, the beat model came about through lots of things, but one was listening to all these experts and whatnot and seeing the commonalities. And a lot of them were talking about morning routines and evening routines. And the reason I think it's so important is because most of the time we wake up and we just get about our day, and we do have a routine. We're just not conscious of it. And we think, the day's going great or the day's not going great, but we don't really set ourselves up. And this became a little bit more evident when I stay around people's houses and things, because I realize of the things that I've implemented into my life in the morning to make me feel good.
Yeah.
One of the things I was doing with my friends actually when we were away was just a 5-minute wake up, mobilization, stretching type routine.
You showed it to me when I stayed at yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So I showed them the same thing, right? This is basic, right? It takes 5 minutes. Same thing like with you. They were a little bit tight, I had to adjust things for them. But I did say that once you do that for a few weeks or so, you're going to get much better, much quicker. But that was just one of the things that
describe it, because we did it, right? So it's like 20 squats, 20 lunges, and basic exercises, but good body exercises, right?
I've got it on my Instagram highlight story for anyone that wants to see the visuals. But effectively, it's 20 air squats. Usually, I hold onto the banister. Then I go onto downward dog, and I place one heel followed by the other, so like walking on the spot 20 times. Then it's 20 Spider-Man lunges. So get into a plank position and put one foot outside of, like, your right foot outside your right hand, back to plank, left foot outside left hand. And that's like 1, 2. Do that 20 times. Then back to 20 downward dogs. Then I do 20 push-ups, and they can be just standard push-ups, or they can be on your knees and coming back into child's pose, or coming into a crouch. If you're off your knees, that can be quite tough. Then 20 downward dogs in between every exercise. And then it's 20 hip flexors. So that's coming into a lunge position and bending the back knee to the floor, looking forwards and straight again. And then 20 downward dogs after each side. And then it's 20 hamstring straightening. So it's called like what do we call it? I can't remember the name of it in yoga, or pyramid pose, like a pyramid pose in yoga. So you're standing with your legs almost like a triangle shape, and you're bending and flexing that. And then what's after that? 20 what I call Jackie Chan lunges or side lunges. Again, holding onto the banister. And then usually I'm kind of in a forward fold, and I do 20 windmill twists. So like left hand to right foot, and then right hand to left foot. And again, you can have a look at the pictures on the Instagram highlight. But I do that as a basic thing. So I did that this morning because I was in a rush this morning. So I did that straight after the shower. Takes around 5 minutes. And that's my basic
Yeah,
movement.
I mean, you've done something every single day as part of your
Yeah,
routine.
exactly. And there's
Mobility
occasionally I don't do it, but my routine, if I think about it, is quite lengthy. If I do a full routine, if I did everything that I wanted to do, it would take
I
like
quite like talking about routine because routine links really closely to productivity as well, which is something that I like to try and optimize best I can. But if you try and put too many things in to either your routine, you try and overcomplicate it, or you get too ambitious sometimes with how much you want to complete in a day, whether that's your work tasks or whatever, or your routine tasks even. But actually, that's often the point of failure because you dilute it so much, you're unable to push it through. So I'd be interested to, I guess, get from you, and I'll happily share mine as well. What I would say anything more than 3 sometimes gets quite complicated. If you have more than 3 goals in a day, right, you're going to go, it's too, or you don't do it as well, or you dilute it, or it's not as focused. What would be the 3 key routine things that you do each morning or evening things that you do?
I will tell you those 3 things in a moment. I've got, as you can probably guess, a little acronym for that. But I would rather, I'll say the full one at the moment, right? Just this is the ideal routine, and then I'll break it down how it can be simplified. So for me, I've got a pretty standard routine, although there's flexibility within that framework. So when I wake up and I go to the bathroom, I read that book that I think I mentioned, right? The Greatest Salesman in the World. So I read that to get some positive thinking in my head and just a reminder of the lessons there. Then I go downstairs. Usually I chop all my veg and everything for smoothies and juices whilst having a hot water, just to mobilize the digestion and rehydrate from the night. Then I'll go into meditation practice, usually in front of a infrared light therapy device. So that'll be meditation. And then I'll probably go on my rebounder, so the little trampoline that I'll do for about 15 to 20 minutes, followed by I think we did some of the exercises at mine, the shoulder mobilization, the gospel stuff. And then there may be time for exercise, and that actual proper exercise, like that boxing HIIT training that we did, or a bit of yoga or something like that. Then it's shower, make the smoothies and juices and clear up whilst listening to a podcast. Now, if I did all of that, that could take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. And actually, I feel brilliant when I've done all that. And the reason I
want to make it accessible because you work as a vitality expert from home. You can spend 2 hours and arguably call it work to a certain degree, right? Most people have got the school runs to do. They've got breakfast done. They've got to feed the kids, get them to school, get themselves out. If you from your perspective, with your level of expertise that you've got and research you've done, if someone was listening to this and wanted to optimize their morning with 3 routine things that they did, one might be move for 5 minutes, for example. One might be spend 5 minutes creating a smoothie. I don't know. I'll let you pick them. What would be the 3 things?
Okay, I will share that in a second. What I would say, people do not have any routine. Okay, or their routine is wake up, turn off the alarm, which happens to be their phone, look at their phone straight away, and then
that's why I'm keen to get into it, really, because most people don't have one, or they haven't recognized they've got one. But if we jump straight into from nothing to a potential 2-hour routine, right, we're going to lose them right off the bat.
No. So I will share with you actually something I shared last week on an interview on Instagram. And so my basic routine, when I think, right, so we're talking about productivity earlier. I'm talking about high performance, let's call it. Now, when I think of a high performance vehicle, right, one of the vehicles that springs to mind is a BMW, right? German BMW, high performance vehicle. That BMW is what I want people to remember as 3 things they can consider when having a morning routine. BMW. So the first one, letter B, that stands for breathing. So in the morning, before you get onto your phone, give yourself ideally at least 90 minutes before you get on your phone, but let's say at least 30 minutes. Do something to do with breathing. Now, what does that mean? That could mean meditation. That could mean lying in bed and focusing on your breath for 10 breaths. Often for me, if I'm in a rush like today, I do this weird breathing thing whilst I finish my shower. So when I finish my shower, I think I might have explained it to you, I can't remember. But when I finish my shower, before I dry myself, and if you're watching on video, you'll be able to see, but I effectively rush my hands over my head 40 times whilst taking, so I'm counting, but breathing, like going like that sort of thing. And then I do 20 on each arm, 20 on the body, and 20 on the legs, whilst doing some kind of breath work. It could be short, sharp. It could be breathing in for that 10 seconds and out for that 10 seconds, anything like that, anything that is breathing related. Then I have my window open, and before I put the towel on, this is like getting into the realms of weirdness that I do, but I take my towel and I effectively flap it to both clear the room, but also cool me down 20
a little
times.
Morning flash for everyone outside the window. That's what it's really about, isn't it? Every morning, flash yourself to
no one can see. No one can see. So that I do like 20 times with the hand towel, the face towel, and 20 times with the body towel. So that's 40 breath there. And so I'm breathing at the same time. So that's my basic breath, right? If I'm not doing meditation, I'm not doing Wim Hof, not doing anything like that. I'm doing that whilst I'm doing something else. This is what I want to make clear to people, is a lot of this that I'm talking about, you can do whilst doing other things. So then M, right? M stands for movement. So I've just shared that 5-minute morning routine. There could be other 3 to 5 minute routines. It could just be walking up and down the stairs a few times. Sometimes I do that deliberately. I've left things up there and I come up and down a few times. Today I cycled to work, so I did the 5 minutes plus the 45-minute cycle. So that would be movement, some kind of movement. It does not have to be your main exercise. It's going to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20, whatever it is. For me, it's that 5-minute routine plus the rebounding. But the bare minimum might be, let's say I'm in the shower. I mean, let's say, for example, you've got kids around. As soon as you get out of the bathroom, you know that your day is done, right? So I tend to do a lot of this if their kids around, are locked in the bathroom. So that's why I do the shower, I do the breathing stuff there. And then I'll do maybe the squats, like sit in, like put the toilet seat down sort of thing, and then sit, squat, right? Or when I'm brushing my teeth, I do some of the knees over toes guy exercises.
Yeah, you can do sort of calf raises and stuff.
Yeah, so I do the calf raises, I do the tibialis raise, I do those sorts of things. So some kind of movement, right? It might just be bringing my knee up to my elbow, like bringing like anything like that whilst I'm in the locked in.
I'm guessing the W is water. Is the W water?
Of course it is.
Had to be. That's the Harry I know and love. Water. There we are. I have no water around me at my desk, but I do have a Pepsi Max. There you go, standard.
Oh my God. So the W is water. So as we've mentioned before, you lose about 1 litre of water overnight just through breathing. Yeah. Although it depends, if you breathe through your nose and not your mouth, like my friend in Austin, he started mouth taping the last 6 months. So he doesn't snore anymore, which is great because I shared a room with him in Houston. But yeah, it's water. So you want to drink somewhere between half a litre to 1 litre in that first 30 minutes if you can. It might be in sips. I tend to drink it as both warm water or hot water, so 1/3 hot, 2/3 cold, but sometimes it's just room temperature water. And that's my basic routine. And the beauty of that routine is you can do that when you're traveling, you can do that even during the day to get a little bit more energy. And that's what I would say that everyone can probably find time to do that. Because like I say, it's usually doing it whilst you're doing other stuff anyway. So That would be my basic routine in BMW is find some time to breathe, find some time to move, and find some time to drink some water. And then ideally do not have any external influence like your phone. Like I would have my phone.
See, I'd challenge that actually. I would say that breathing I do in the morning. It's different the way you do it, but I would mix it into my movement routine. So I'm a bit like you, movement every morning, some kind of exercise. Might be part of the stretching routine or the morning mobility piece, and I'll incorporate breathing into the movement work.
Yeah,
water,
fine.
Believe it or not, it's about the only time I do drink water in the day. It's first thing in the morning. I use it because I take it with my supplements or anything else that's going on, and to rehydrate in the morning. Often I've had wine the night before, so it's good to have some rehydration. Anyway, Harry, we live our lives very differently. Water it would be in there for me as well. But actually, I would challenge you a little bit on the phone piece. I don't think it should be the first thing that we do. But I think for most people, and you are an exception to the rule here, but the majority of individuals, phone is a huge, rightly or wrongly, I'm not getting into that today, but a huge part of people's lives. Now, if we don't address the thing that's hidden in our minds, then it's going to consume us as well. So I would actually argue that before we get into our working day, that we clear down the predominant crap that's come in, check there's nothing there to get on with, because what will happen otherwise is you'll take it into your job, or you'll take it into you'll be distracted from your kids if you're doing a school run or whatever it is you're doing. You won't be fully present, if that's the right word, in whatever you're trying to do, because you haven't tackled the things that are left unchecked. That doesn't mean get lost into the vortex of Instagram. That's not what I'm talking about. But I do think if there's things that need responding to, you can clear it down very quickly. What I would argue is it's really important to get disciplined with what that means. So it's not going into the Facebook vortex. It's clearing down the essential elements that take away the what's the word? The paranoia, for want of a better word, or the curiosity of what may or may not be there. So you can clear down, because if you haven't got a clear mind going in,
well,
and you're
yeah,
thinking about what may or may not be there, it'll consume you.
That, by you stating that, reflects how because you're saying, oh, you're going to have this thought about, the phone and not knowing that you've cleared something or not cleared something, so you're not going to be able to focus on the work. I would argue the other thing, actually, because for me that doesn't happen, right? Like, and it's about conditioning, right? Now we become conditioned to be at the beck and call of other people's schedule, which is effectively what the phone tends to be for a lot of people. It's an interruption device that people get interrupted because of other people's schedules or other people's priorities. The reality is, most of what comes into your phone is not stuff that you need to deal with. That is the reality. 90% of it, if not more. Even if you've got kids, because the kids will be in your house most likely anyway, unless you're obviously away from the kids for some reason or another. And in which case, there may be some exceptions. There's always an exception to the rule. But what I would say is, at least in my experience, whenever I've gone into the phone, and this has happened actually more frequently recently than I'd like to admit, whenever I've gone into that phone and it's like, oh, I just need to check something, because let's say, for example, when I leave school for a day early, like I did today, I often turn on the phone because I just want to make sure there's no last minute changes to my schedule or anything like that. But the reality is, when I go into that phone, I am sometimes getting sucked into that vortex.
Well, that comes down to discipline.
Well, this is why I say, and we've got to keep going on about this discipline thing, because I don't think that we can survive on discipline, right? We have to come into habit formation, because discipline requires willpower, requires that resistance against that thing that is pulling you towards you.
Well, so you could argue it's a habit as well. I think if you can find the time to do things, that's why we get lost and time can disappear. If you know you've got to do the school run at 8:30 or whatever time it might be, 7:30, 8:30, and you've got your phone doesn't go with you. So that'd be the first thing. If you haven't checked it, for most people, they'll take it with them, which means they're not present. So if you're able to give yourself a 5-minute window, check whatever is it's urgent. You say 90% of stuff's crap, so leave that. There could be 10% of stuff there that needs to be looked at, needs to be checked. You can clear it down in your emails. If you're disciplined with it, you can clear down what's important.
But I wouldn't even be checking emails on the phone. I mean, the only thing I would check personally on my phone usually is a WhatsApp message or a text message. No one texts anyway these days. It's usually WhatsApp. But have you read the book The One Thing, by the way? No. So this is one of my favorite books, actually. But it talks a lot about, firstly, defining what your one thing is, like what's your one objective, right, for the year, and then narrow it down to what that means per quarter, per month, etc. And then it talks about working on that during the day at the expense of everything else for the first most productive hours.
Well, that's not too dissimilar to the principle of having no more than 3 things at any one time either. It's easier to maximize your return if you focus on just 3 things and if you try and focus on 10.
Yeah, which is why on my super journal thing, I think you might have looked at when you came here, but I've got like three main goals, right? 3 main things that you work on exclusively. And the way that you check your emails, for example, is dictated by the inputs you're requiring to move those things forward. So what that means is most people have their email system sorted by date, right? And they look at often the most recent thing that comes in. Whereas what you could do is you could sort it by sender. And then if you know that, for example, in order to move project A forward, you're requiring an email from Nick, you look for any emails from Nick. And if there aren't no emails from Nick, then you send a chaser to Nick if you need to send a chaser, or you work on the project A without Nick's input. But you don't then get distracted by all the other things that come your way. But I would say that can all wait until you sit down for your work mode, as it were. So do your breakfast, do your school run, do your stuff without...
I think what you're saying might sound great when you write it down or say it out loud. In reality of having a workforce, which I do have, and managing a business, it doesn't work like that. If I would love my team at the minute to clear them down before they came into work, because I lose the first hour of productivity because most of them are catching up on the stuff they haven't done yet, and they're looking at all those different bits. And as much as I try and say you should be cracking on, people lose that productivity time because they haven't done it yet in the morning because they're so rushed. They get out of bed why would they get their things done.
If I was employed by someone and I'm working, say, like 9 to 5, why would I be checking my work emails at 7:30?
Who said it had to be work emails?
But you said that they're kind of losing their productivity. They haven't cleared that.
Yeah, because they're checking whatever has happened. It could be anything from Facebook to Instagram to Twitter to whatever. The news that happened the day before, the daily news, which again could be done.
None of that for me. None of that
is important.
None of it's
I know, but you don't live your life like 99% of the population.
I know, and this is the thing. I want to do a whole talk.
We want to be able to optimize. We want to be able to optimize the status quo, the listeners, the people that are out there, right? So, it's small steps, and to suddenly go like cold turkey on these things is going to be a big shock to people. So you want to make it manageable. You also want to make it something that's accessible and digestible by the majority of the population that may be listening.
Yeah, and I don't think anything I've said is not being, because I said, right, don't look at your phone for, I said, ideally 90 minutes. If you can't do that, 30 minutes, right? That's not actually a big ask.
But then we can stay united in that. So what I'm saying is within that 30 minutes, there needs to be a portion of time, I think, before you start your working day or before you have to spend time where you should be present elsewhere, i.e. with your kids or whatever. You should clear that bit down so that you're not then distracted from the major tasks of the day, from your 3 goals or whatever your goal is on that day. Because time just gets lost. And if you're not disciplined with that time, or if you don't make it a habit, or whatever you want to term it, then you can lose a lot more productivity and a lot more time than you want to.
I would argue that you're probably going to be less present with your day or your morning or your kids if you've opened your phone and then suddenly that task isn't going to take you 2 seconds to clear, and then you're kind of thinking about that because you need to do that when you're getting late. That's what happens to me, is that, let's say I open my phone and there's a message from a tenant and it's like, something's up with the... Now, when that's happened to me before, right? Whether I did it then or an hour later or an hour and a half, 2 hours later, is neither here nor there. But because I've got that message there, it mucks up everything. Like, it will muck up.
See, I'm the total opposite. I'll check. Yeah. So I have this discipline down in my morning routine. And I then know, once I've got the things I need to get done, be it exercise, be it the kids or whatever, I know exactly what I need to start. Potentially if there's something that's come in, I know what I need to start the day with. It doesn't bother me anymore. I've recognized it's there. No one's trying to chase me. No one's trying to do anything else. And I can then kind of compartmentalize the priority list of my day, potentially, if there's something that's urgent. Typically, what you love to see, which is what happened this morning, where there's nothing urgent in there whatsoever, it's a 2-minute exercise.
When are you checking that? Tell me when you're checking that. Let's listen to your routine and tell me when you're checking your phone then.
Yeah, so first thing I do when I wake up is I go straight down. I'm into, actually, first thing I do is go and see the kids, make sure they're both all right and have had their breakfast, because they obviously got to make sure they're ready for school uniform, whatever. Or if my wife's not up, that's number one priority. Kids first, because school comes first. Daughter goes at 7:30, and my son goes at 8:30. So I get up to make sure my daughter's ready for her school day.
Aren't you up earlier though? I thought you were up at like 6 or 5.
I'm up earlier, yeah, but I've got to make sure those things are ready. So it'll depend. So it'll depend on what day. So I'm talking about today. Today is not a big workout day. Okay. So my big workout days are Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we'll be up slightly earlier. So tomorrow I'm up even earlier than that because I actually spend an hour, actually 45 minutes playing computer games with my son because it's the only time I can come fit it in. So we optimize it. He's an early riser. So tomorrow's routine, I'll tell you tomorrow's routine. Tomorrow's routine will be up at 6. Playing computer games, whatever he chooses, because that's our daddy-son time in the mornings. We'll play computer games for about 45 minutes. After that point, we'll get him ready, so he'll have his breakfast, make sure he's brushed his teeth, 39 years old, get himself ready, get his breakfast down. My daughter will be up at that point to make sure she's got her breakfast ready for her school, pick up at 7:30. So none of that's with my phone. If I touch my phone at that point, it's distracted, so that's all me and Leo time. Straight after that, still no phone. I'll be in my gym or doing my workout or doing my run, and that's usually an hour. So I'll do either
7:30 to 8:30 or something.
Yeah, about 8:30. At that point, Leo goes to school at 8:30. So I'll either, depending on who's taking him, me and my wife, that'll obviously disappear how it goes. We'll do the goodbye, make sure he's ready. And so at that point, after they've gone, actually, for them, so the phone hasn't distracted me in the morning. So I'll then check down what needs to be done. I'll kind of work out then what I need to do in the daytime. Obviously got staff as well, make sure there's no staff.
You've been up for 2.5 hours before you're going to check your phone tomorrow, effectively.
But it's still be done before I start my working day.
Yeah. I don't necessarily argue with that. I mean, I will often check. It depends. If I've got like a project to do that I don't want the distraction, I might not check it. But I will check it after I've done those things that are important to me, like the meditation, the breathing, the movement, because otherwise I'm going to fall into a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I know that. And I think that's what I'm saying here is like, but most people, they have their phone on and they don't have it on airplane mode. Some people even have it beeping throughout the night, which I think is crazy.
No, I put it on airplane mode. Too distracting otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is with airplane mode is that when it's not in airplane mode, messages can come in, and then subconsciously your mind is going to what's coming in. When it's in airplane mode, it's like a barrier, and it's like nothing's coming in. And I have my phone on airplane mode almost, I say 80% of my waking day, and my phone is in airplane mode. And it's only when I want to check something that I take it off airplane mode. Because like I said, most people use the phone as a tool to get into.
I'm actually not too dissimilar. I have it on airplane mode during the night, but do not disturb for 90% of the day. As most people know that message me, who maybe listen to this, because I never see WhatsApp messages till the end of the day. I don't look at it. The way to contact me in the day is actually through my work email, because I'm on that for work, but I don't really look at my phone.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, you can set up your phone now. They're very smart. You can set up like do not disturb, but you can set it up so your key contacts or your star contacts can get through. Or if someone calls repeatedly within the same 5 or
so what's your evening routine?
So that's also something that's important, because again, people think that they can go to bed by accident, right? Now we're going to be very different. Now my evening routine is a bit variable, and it's not an ideal routine at the moment. But one of the things that obviously I'm pretty diligent with is light. So lighting and limiting light. And actually it was quite funny, again, visiting my friends in Austin, because they have their lights on way into the evening, and I'm like, I can't take all this. I took my blue light blockers, I took my sunglasses with me, and I'll just be wearing sunglasses if I haven't got my contacts in, or if I have my contacts in, I'll be wearing the blue light blocking glasses, because it's just too bright for me. And so your body wants to start to think that it's sunset, right? Which it is. And if you've got lights on, it limits that. So my big thing is usually lights. The other thing is I have this philosophy, which I think I've mentioned before, 9 after 9 or 9 for 90. So 9 is no for German. So 90 minutes before bed or after 9 o'clock, phone, it goes into airplane mode. Try not to have anything that could disturb my sleep from a stress point of view. And then in an ideal world, I will chill out a little bit. Like last night, because I wanted to fall asleep, I took a magnesium bath, which usually knocks me out, and I took a couple of melatonins as well to help me. In an ideal world, what I have found with the Oura Ring is that when I stretch before bed, I tend to get better sleep. When I meditate before bed, I tend to A, drop into sleep quicker, and B, have more deep sleep. So in an ideal world, I would either stretch or meditate, but usually that hasn't been happening recently. And I usually put magnesium spray if I don't have a bath. I mean, that's basically it. It's pretty simple. It's like limit the lighting, limit the outside inputs, maybe watch a movie. So I'll probably finish off watching a movie tonight after we speak. And then I might take another magnesium bath just because I'm jet lagged and I want to make sure that I do what I can to support my sleep. But generally, I would say it's magnesium spray, maybe some lavender spray on the pillow, very little lighting, blue light blocking glasses. That's it really.
Yeah, there are actually some surprising similarities. I mean, there's obviously some that aren't as well, right? So certainly my routine doesn't start with turning the lights down, although we have the lights down. My wife, for watching TV at night time, chill out time, she cannot bear having lights on. It ruins the vibe, right? So she's got a kind of fairy light kind of things that she'll turn on at a very low level. You can't really see, but give you a bit of an ambience. So actually, lights do go down. I don't wear blue light blocking glasses and like that. But actually, the phone now goes away. That's a relatively new thing. I'd say last 6 months. Just 9 after 9. There's no phone because it just distracts.
Yeah.
And the only time I will make an exception to that rule is if Spurs are playing, and I'll make sure I know what the scores are going on. But usually I'll be watching that if that's the case. But that's me. But my routine does shift me a little bit on the nutrition side. So we eat late. Number one, probably later than we want to, but we eat around 8:30, which is probably later than most. Yeah. And my routine typically most days would start with a glass of wine poured for me and my wife. I mean, because it's like it's our nod to each other, but. It's a simple. I've talked about in my previous podcast when we first had our kids years ago, 14 years ago. I never forget the NCT woman saying to us, "Look, there's a story here that you never know how the woman comes home while you are. The worst thing you can do is pour a glass of wine for yourself because it's for both of you. No matter how bad your day has been, that's just kind of a little loosener. So we tend to have a glass of red wine every single night. Sometimes if I'm training for a race, I will actually knock the alcohol on my head for a little bit if I want to get into optimum shape. But usually it's something we enjoy together.
Yeah.
But then there were some similarities after that, because magnesium is absolutely a staple of my routine. I'll always have magnesium. I have a magnesium, the three combination magnesium supplements I take every evening. And interestingly, it's the only time I also drink water. So I drink it in the morning to rehydrate, and I take it with the magnesium in the evening. Probably the only 2 times I only drink water with nothing else in it, like Ribena or smoothie or whatever. So I'll have that. The difference I think between you and I is I don't have a set time to go to bed. In fact, I would.
Not do I actually necessarily.
I don't believe a lot of the sleep stuff will say you must have a sleep routine. I'm not here to say that's incorrect. It doesn't work for me. One of the biggest things I've learned that's really been a massive shift with improving my sleep is go to sleep when I'm tired, or just before and I don't mean that's when you're shattered. The first feeling you get of being tired, then go, because otherwise I'll either wake myself up again and I'm in a nightmare. And I don't know what time that will be. So actually 2 nights ago I was in bed at 9:50, which is the first time I've been in bed for a long time. Usually I'm at midnight. But I was tired, so I just went off and went straight to bed. I mean, but when I feel tired is when I'll go.
I don't have a set time. Well, that's the other thing I forgot to mention is that at 9 o'clock, I don't have any clocks in my house anyway, but I've got this one little watch that's on my sink, and I turn that away from me at 9 o'clock, so I don't know the time, because I don't want. Last thing a lot of people do before they go to bed is look at the time, and then they go, "Oh, I should have got to bed early," or whatever, and then that's a little boost of cortisol.
Or they think it's too early sometimes.
Or they think it's too early. So what I do is I start to, in the winter, it's a lot earlier. So in the winter, by like 6 o'clock, I've got the blue light blockers on and everything else. But usually I'm getting tired anyway, because I've got like the lights low and blue light blockers glasses. Summer, it's a little bit different. And so I don't know a lot of the time what time I go to bed. In my ideal world, I think I go to bed at like between 10 and 11. My ring has a different story, and my average bedtime over the last 4.5 years is 11:30. So my average is 11:30 to 7:30, but then there are days I'm going to bed at 6 and going to bed at 10 and waking up at 6 or whatever else it might be.
If I was going to ask you a question, there's a coaching saying that says, "What got you here won't get you there," and the idea behind that is that we live in our past thinking, or our past selves, or our present thinking even. And not necessarily from our future self. So even in business, it's a true thing. So what got me to this point isn't necessarily going to get me to the next point, because you might need a different type of thinking to get you to that next point. And something I'll often do if I'm coaching clients, I'll say, okay, so you want to get to, you turned over, let's say $1 million, or we've made £1 million profit, whichever way around it is. And you want to take the next step and you want to double that. What would someone who's already doubled it, what would they be doing? Because it changes the way you think. It's probably for you to get there now and make 100% increase in your business is going to be difficult doing the things you've already done. You need to change the way you're thinking. It's a really quick way of doing stuff. So using that principle for you, because if I instantly wanted to run a £10 million EBITDA company, I would have to change the way I think to achieve that, because it's not going to happen next year. So it completely radicalizes the way that you approach a subject. You've got to think outside the box. You've got to be innovative. So applying that logic to your routines as a vitality expert, I'm intrigued to know what's got you here so far is great, but what are you still looking to optimize, and how do you change your thinking in order to do that? Or do you think you've actually already found the most optimum way to wake and sleep?
Okay, a couple of things. Actually, I want to share a podcast with you later, because talking about the 2x stuff, this guy was saying actually 2x in your current state is the same level of thinking, because he says like 2x is like going from crawling to faster crawling. What you want to be thinking about is 10x in it, because 10x. So
that's the same principle I'm talking about right now. Is you go big
to walk,
because otherwise you're still using the same thinking that got you there.
Yeah,
and that's not what we want.
So I think for my evening routine, in terms of what I think optimizes it, I kind of know what works. Right, I don't do all of it. For example, like I said, if I do a proper stretching routine before bed, especially yin stretching, where you're holding the poses for a few minutes, and I listen to, say, music instead of watching TV, and I meditate, that's going to optimize it about as good as it can get. One thing I would say with the water is also I usually try and stop drinking 90 minutes before bed. Otherwise, I'll probably wake up in the night to go to the loo. And in terms of drinking wine, what I drink is now my Rishi hot chocolate, which my friend in the States really liked, because
that's a mushroom, isn't it, Rishi? That's
a mushroom, yeah.
I remember writing about that years ago when I had my sleep website.
For, I guess, de-stress. Sometimes I'll take a tea, a nighttime tea, but it's good for like de-stressing the nervous system, as it were. And also what I use it for is sometimes after food recently, last sort of 6 months, I'm kind of craving like a chocolate, and I tend not to have chocolate. But when I have that hot chocolate, it nullifies it. And actually my friend found that to be the case in Austin. So now I've got her on the mushroom hot chocolate because she's always craving chocolate after her food. And now with that, she doesn't need it. So I think I'm pretty optimal. I think in terms of sleep, what I would like to optimize a bit further, which I'm not doing, is a cooler bed or cooler room.
So, but I'm interested, just because the way you live your life, knowing that those things could optimize your life further, what's stopping you from doing them?
Yes, that is a great question. Because sometimes I just don't want to. Simple as that, right? Sometimes I want to watch the rest of what's it called, Mission Impossible 7 tonight, right? And then I might have and also, like, you sometimes forget how good that thing actually, like when I do the stretching, I'm like, I should really be doing this more, because I look at my scores the next day, I'm like, oh, that's much better. But it's not enough. The pain of not doing it is not enough to warrant always doing it. If that makes sense.
I like hearing this side of you. This is important, I think, because I do think we can go too far. And if it stops being joyful, if it takes the joy out of what we're doing, sometimes you can live optimally, but there's no point living optimally if you don't get any joy out of doing it. Yeah. It depends on where your joy comes from. I know we have slightly different values, although they're relatively closely aligned. And I have
flexibility with it. So, like, actually last night, something I may do tonight, and I know you've got, I think, a set of these, but you know those Normatec type massage legs?
Yeah.
They also help with the sleep, but I was using those for about an hour whilst watching.
I've actually got mine set up for tonight. I haven't used them for a little while, but you're right. It doesn't. There's nothing on their website that talks at all about sleep on any of these things. I've got a different brand too, but
it's about de-stressing.
But they're so good for sleep. They are so good for sleep.
So I'll be doing that tonight. I think what I'll do, because I've got the bright light on, because I wanted to make sure I was visible tonight. So as soon as we finish, which will be 7 o'clock, that light is going to go off. I'm going to have a bit of food, which is later than I'd like to, but I'm going to do it now anyway. Watch the rest of that movie. I'll see how I feel. I may take another melatonin, because I think I'm going to take it for like 3 nights while I transition. And then I'll see if I'm tired enough. If I'm not tired enough, then I'll have a magnesium bath to push me over, because I've got another early start tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, really, I should do a bit of stretching, but I'm feeling a bit lazy today, and I don't really want to do anything.
I get all mine done in the morning, because in the evenings, I need to be social with my family, and B, I look forward to the red wine too much to be running around and time with my wife. So I try and max out everything I can in the mornings, and I'm kind of done for the day. Yeah. Just to bring listeners into the world we were just talking about. So we've both got compression leg, basically compression leg things. You put your legs inside. Air compression on different cycles works through them. I think it might be the white noise that sends you to sleep, and it's just quite comfortable, but they're really, really good for sleep. Second thing, you were talking about, what was it, the 2X or something you talked about earlier? Just to bring up to life, I think it sounds similar. So the idea being that we often, and I've said this before, we overpredict what we think we can achieve in 1 year and massively underpredict what we can do in 10. If we bring this into the world of productivity, often we think, I'm going to you get a New Year's resolution. Right, now I'm suddenly going to do X, Y, and we add 10 things to the list that we've never done before. And what happens is that we fail, because we've just massively overestimated what we can actually commit to, which is why I say if you just commit to 3 things, it's way more sustainable. Yeah. And sustainability is, as you know, whether you're doing, a health kick, it's the ability to sustain it over a longer period that makes things work. That's why fad diets are called fad diets. Sometimes they're too aggressive and we can't keep with them. And it's the same in business. So you were talking about, I don't know, something a minute ago, but from a business context, I know that if I want to make a change in our company and I want to make massive strides somewhere, or if I'm working with a coaching client and I want them to make massive strides in their business, sometimes the quickest way to do that is to go, right, put yourself in someone else's shoes. What would, a Richard Branson do in this situation? How would he think differently to the way I am? Maybe he'd be delegating all this stuff out. Maybe you wouldn't be doing the minutiae things that you are doing, as an example. And you got to think outside the box in terms of what you want to achieve, and having really clear goals in what you want to do, and not having too many of them can make it way more sustainable.
When you've got to, I like my acronyms. One I heard, right, is this one for focus, right? Focus, FOCUS, right? Follow one course until success, right? That's what focus helps you do. So I like that. And the other thing, we're talking about consistency. I always say, being successful is as easy as ABC, right? First is awareness, right? You now have to have awareness about what you need to change. Then it's B, you have to make that behavioral change. But the most important thing, which people tend to forget, is C, consistency, right? It's no good kind of going to the gym once or doing something once, right? You have to be consistent in that approach in order to get that success. And most people fall down, and I'm the same, right? And some areas of my life, I'm great. In other areas, I'm not doing that consistency, even though I might have the A and the B.
I just think a lot of people try and do too much too soon. It's like, well, I'm going to lose weight. So I'm suddenly going to completely restrict myself and do things completely out of the ordinary. Your body goes into shock. Or I'm going to put 3 hours of exercise a day. It's not realistic.
This is why I'm saying put that phone away in the beginning of the day, because suddenly you're adding 50 things. When you open up that phone, you suddenly got your WhatsApp and your LinkedIn and your everything else coming at you. That's splitting your focus and your attention. And so you need to focus on what's important to you in that first 2 hours of the day. Now, if what's important to you in that first 2 hours of the day is checking your stocks and shares because that's what you're going to be doing at trading, then fair enough. But for most people, I suspect that what's important to them is getting a good start to the day, being present with their kids, maybe.
Yeah, there's loads of advice saying if you want to go running, get your trainers out, get it all set up. So as soon as you wake, you're out and you're done. That's your mindset.
I mean, today, like, for example, I think you've seen at my place. So, and I'll do this when we get off the phone. This will be part of my evening routine. I'm going to prep a week's worth of my green powder mixes, and I've already chopped the veg for tomorrow because I don't want any obstacles to me making a juice and a smoothie at 6 a.m. when I wake up. So it's all ready to go. And all I have to do is pour it in and then clean up.
I've juiced and smoothied every day since I've been at your house. That's the truth. I have, and I've even created some new juices which are rank as hell, but you'll know why. I'll tell you what I put in them. I've decided I can't mix the wheatgrass and the what's the not plankton, the algae stuff you get, the photographic algae.
Spirulina or spirulina.
Anyway, it tastes like crap. It's really bright.
I don't know. Yeah,
it tastes horrible. So when you put it in smoothies, they could become undrinkable. However, I've discovered if you put them into small little shots, mix it up that way, you can just about tolerate them. So I've got little shots of that, which I have in the morning. In the afternoon, I have my homemade ginger and chili shots, which are fine, through the juicer, which is new. And then I've got the smoothies, which I'm using your little recipe for, which is keeping me kicked in during the day. I'm sticking with it. Don't taste as good as your ones, I'd admit. I'd still overload stuff.
Mate, 10 years. It's taken 10 years to get. I mean, I was saying that to my friend in Austin because she has a Vitamix, actually. We didn't actually make any smoothies together, but I'm always saying, look, just start simple. I do think that the green powders I use are a good kickstart for me personally. Whenever I've made it without, it's never quite as good. But I've evolved over time. It's now 30 plus ingredients, but actually it started off with 3. So, you've got to experiment and see what works for you, right? And it's about having flexibility. Same with the routines that we're talking about. That's why my basic routine might be BMW. There may be the odd day where I don't manage to move in the morning or whatever. I'm not going to cry about it.
Tell you what I found out this week. You mentioned BMW and you said you love your acronyms. And
I also want to get sponsored by BMW because I keep mentioning this as a phrase.
Well, I was going to say that BMW isn't an acronym. Did you know that?
It's just the name of their thing.
It's an initialism. It has to spell a word to be an acronym.
Yeah, that's
there
true.
You go. Just thought I'd throw that out there, just to be a pedant.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And
to be honest, I only point it out because someone was a pedant to me when I called something an acronym the other week, and they pulled me up on it. I thought, right, I'm going to remember that.
I am aware of that. It's just, for those listeners that may be more familiar with the concept of an acronym rather than an initialism, we'll do that.
There we are. We digest. But I think it'd be interesting. I'd love to hear feedback from those that, sometimes we get messages from a lot of listeners that send us bits and pieces back. What are your
message about last week's one? Did you see that?
No.
I forget her name now. Your friend who
Turkey.
Who? Which one?
Kirsten.
Yeah, I think so. Well, the fitness PT. Yes.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She wrote a lovely post the other day. Maybe she didn't tag you in it. I think it was to do with the conversation that we had last week. But then she was saying today, she messaged and saying that they sparked a conversation this morning over breakfast. So if you haven't checked that out, listeners, check out the last episode as well, where we talk all about UFOs and plant medicines and
some random stuff. And it was, as we always do. But I think I'd be interested to know what people's goals are. Like, if you haven't set your goals yet, I would say make them way more ambitious than you usually would. The idea of what got you here won't get you there. Like if you really want to maximize it, it doesn't always matter if you get there or not. You don't have to have an attachment to the goal. That's some of the mistake a lot of people have. They go, oh no, if I don't achieve it, then I'm a failure. It's not about that.
Not about
if you think differently, if I suddenly go, I want to run a £10 million company next year, I may not get to 10 million quid, right? But it'll change the way I think. It'll change the way I do things. And I'll get further ahead than if I just go, I want to add 5%. So it'd be interesting to know what people's goals are. And I would limit them to 3. If you have too many, like keep stripping them back.
And also what their routines are. So do people have a routine? That would be the thing. And the thing I think I want people to take away is, if you don't have a routine, maybe consider thinking about the routine that will optimize that first couple of hours of your morning or that first few hours of your sleep. Because I didn't think about routines until about 12 years ago. I was just waking up, getting a bit of toast, having a shower, going to work and not really thinking about it. And when I started to change how I approached the day, then the day changed for me. And I think it was a big shift. It's one of the most important things I think I've done is implementing morning routines.
I wrote an article on this probably 10 years ago, and I own the domain allbefore9am.com, which is all because I'm a big believer in maximizing the opportunity before you start work. Work doesn't start your day. You can start it whenever you want to start it. You can learn a hobby. You can learn piano, guitar, read, write, whatever. There's some really amazing hours before work where you can really maximize your productivity if you want to achieve things. And as you know, I take no prisoners when people say I don't have time. If you have the motivation, you'll find the time.
You just don't have priority. That's all. You just don't have priority. That's it.
Yeah, or the motivation. If you really want to do something.
Fair, I struggle with proper morning routine stuff when I do the stuff in schools because usually I'm there at 8:00. But that's why I incorporate, say, cycling to get there as part of my.
That's just the right way of working it around to make sure you don't miss out. Yeah. And as I've said before, right, if for those that really, really struggle and they wake up groggy as hell in the morning, test your alarm, move your alarm earlier rather than later.
Move your bedtime earlier as well, I would say, because
potentially, but you don't actually have to. The idea being that you might just be waking up in the middle of a deep sleep cycle, and if you're not tracking this stuff like you and I do, you just don't know when you're waking up. And things like Oura Rings will give you the optimal time to wake. They'll tell you when you should be waking up.
What they're missing actually in the Oura, and I've said, is that haptic feedback. So they should have a vibrational battery in here.
Yeah, that wakes you.
That wakes you up at that point, and it's something they've missed. And it's such an obvious thing.
I would agree. Although, of course, they do tell you the optimal times. You can set your own alarms that way. But it's just interesting. People think the routine piece, the one bit of routine we don't necessarily want in our lives is the belief that the time we set our alarm is the optimal time to wake. And it may not be. So have an experiment on that side. And you might find if you move it a little bit earlier, and maybe you go to bed earlier, whatever, actually you can find a whole new time of day where you can just get things done. And it's quiet and there's very few disturbances. As you say, if you leave your phone on the dock and go and get into your exercise routine or go and deal with the kids, or as I'll be doing tomorrow morning at 6, playing computer games with my son, it's treasured time and we've got no distractions. It's just me and him. It's great.
Good. Well, speaking of your children, I think you're going to go and pick up one of them.
We're going to pick up my daughter. She's at some more drama auditions this evening. So
excellent.
I need to make sure.
Good. Well, I'm going to...
That's gone well.
Sort out my prep work and leave the feedback that I have to do until Wednesday. I have got no energy to be putting in.
Mate, listen, let's not be around the bush. You're going away to go and watch Mission Impossible 7.
I will do, but I need to prep the food first. I have to do that, and then I'm going to watch Mission Impossible 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever it is.
Was it you maybe read Viktor Frankl's book, wasn't it? The last human freedom is the ability to choose one's attitude in a given set of circumstances.
Exactly. So key. I mean, this is what I told the children today. I said, in life, you can only control 2 things. That's your attitude and your actions. That's it. We have control over nothing else in life, just your attitude and actions. So as much as you like to think you can control your kids, you can only control your own attitude and actions, and then hopefully they respond to that in the way that you want them to. But that's the way it goes. All right, well, I'll let you go, and then we'll meet next week, probably at our regular time, because I've got the new mentorship group that I'm teaching.
I look forward to hearing all about it. All right, good stuff. Well, I think there's probably more we can do on this productivity piece. Maybe we'll take this a bit further on another episode.
Yeah, we can talk about
scratch the surface with that, I think so.
Yeah, this was just routines really, and this was barely anything. But remember BMW people, if nothing else, and get that into your morning.
Good stuff. All right, buddy. Listen, enjoy Mission Impossible 7. I will see you next week.
Take care, buddy. Thanks for tuning in to the Mindful Past podcast with Nick Day and Hari Kalymnios.
We hope you found our discussions insightful and hopefully you've gained some valuable takeaways to support you on your own journey.
Please leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform and share an episode that resonates with you with a friend or family member who may also find it valuable.
Please also don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to ensure you never miss a future episode. And in the meantime, we'll continue exploring mindful path topics to provide you with more insights and more ideas to support you on your personal growth journey.
Thank you for your support and look out for the next episode of the Mindful Path podcast dropping soon.